Greetings, everyone. Because we didn't get as far as I was hoping to yesterday in class, the homework that you attempted last night um, was correct-ish. There are different ways to use the participle. I had you use them the so-called easier, well, not so-called, but the easier way. And now I want to show you the more challenging way, the richer way to use them. So if we go back to the homework from last night, take an easy one like the first one. Um, Tatu demu klepsas ukan sozois tenge koran. And we already know from the other video that I made, we've got ourselves a potential optative, not an optative wish, and it would read something like this. You might not save the land. And then since klepsas agrees with sozois, are both singular, having stolen, it's an aorist participle, the the things of the people. So um, let's do it this way. Having stolen the things of the people, you would, should, might not save the land. Okay, this is what's called an attributive use of the participle, and strictly speaking, it's not correct. Um, I'm glancing over at number 23, which should be an easy one. Hoi gerantes hoi, crusan lipaminoi. We know all these words. Hoi gerantes means old men. So the old men, the ones leaving behind the crusan. This is what we call an attributive use of a participle. A participle is an adjective. Adjectives modify, but another fancy word for modify is attribute, given or attribute, I guess. They give an attribute of something. The tall man, the clever woman, um, the thirsty student. All of those are adjectives describing nouns. They're giving an attribute. What kind of man is he? He's tall. What kind of woman? Clever. What kind of student? Thirsty. And I had you use these participles last night attributively. So here's an attributive use of it. Klepsos tells us something about you. Having stolen the things of the people, you would not save the land. Okay. Um, it turns out that you only use participles attributively when there's some kind of connection to the article, like the one with the old men over here, the Garantes. That's why the article is doubled. The old men, the ones leaving behind the gold. But notice we have no articles here for the klepsos. There's nothing singular. Ta is plural, two belongs to demu. So now let's get to the thing that I couldn't show you in class because I ran out of time, the circumstantial use of the participle. I think we're on page 214, and you really will want to put a bookmark next to these. You'll see why in a second. Here's what I highlighted when I went through the book years ago. So circumstantial participle is not in an attributive position. So rather than give an attribute, it gives a circumstance. And it turns out you have some freedom here. You don't have to translate as a phrase, having done this, but you can translate as an adverbial clause. Since he did this, because she spoke clearly, um, despite not, well, despite not, or when would be a good one too. So let's go compare these examples in 1 and 2, same words, but things moved around, and you can see the difference. Pen comes out again. Okay. Ho thuon poietes hupo tu demu sozetai. Now we know sozetai means save, and it's it's passive here, saved by the people. So ho poietes, the poet, and the participle goes inside the article and the noun. So that's attributive position number 1. So we could translate it one way. The poet sacrificing, or the sacrificing poet, is being saved by the people. And that's how you've been translating so far. You could, if you wanted, include, rather than just the word sacrificing, an entire subordinate clause, an adjectival clause. The poet who is sacrificing is being saved by the people. Whichever you use, you're using them because you have ho, and then the participle in between, and then the noun. That's attributive. Now let's take a look at circumstantial. Notice here, all the words are the same. Thuon ho poietes hupo tu demu societai. Leave this out for a second. The poet is saved by the people. But because the participle, where are you there? Use my eraser here. Because the participle is not stuck in between the noun and its article, it's to the outside of it, you have some options. Now, you could do what we've been doing, sacrificing, the poet is saved by the people. But if you want, and some of you did this in your homework last night, you can turn this word, which should be a phrase, not a subject and a verb, into a clause, subject and a verb, but a subordinate clause. When he sacrifices, since he sacrifices, if he sacrifices. So if you just see the participle all by itself, and we'll go look at number one again in a second, with not in between the article, not connected to the article and the noun, you have these options. So let's go ahead. This won't be too messy. Go back to number one. Here's my participle, klepsos. Notice no noun, no article that it's connected to. So it is circumstantial, which means you can translate it if you want like this. Since you have stolen, or actually better, since you stole the things of the people, you would not save the land. Screenshot here. That's circumstantial, and let me put a letter C next to it. So if you do take a note on it, you can see the difference here. Circumstantial, and I'll just retype the attributive use of the participle if we wanted to just make it attributive. And at this stage, you probably shouldn't, and soon you won't even be allowed to. You'll see why in a second. Having stolen the things of the people, you would not save the land. Okay, so this is a good time to take a screenshot if this helps. Because the participle is not connected to the noun and its article, it is circumstantial and should be translated this way. You do have an option, I suppose, of making it attributive. Let's do one more. Let's do number 3. Notice again, the participle is just floating. It's not connected. Look at ho, look at 25 here. Hey, theos, hey, the God, the one, the goddess, the one saving the people. This is attributive because we've got this article. This is the third attributive position. We double the article. That means this participle has to tell something about the goddess. This one has to read the goddess saving the people, the one saving the people. But notice pathomoi, nothing of that sort. So here's the participle. Utoi, by the way, just means not at all. And we've got, as I mentioned in the other video, this is a future passive second person plural. You will not be saved. Okay. Pathomenoi it means persuade, but in the middle it means obey, and the person you obey is in the dative. So if we're going to make this attributive, not obeying these men, you will not at all be saved. Okay, and that's attributive once again. But now we're going to do something a little more advanced. We're going to treat this circumstantial as well. We should. And I'll do it this way. Because you did not obey these men, you will not at all be saved. I know you're probably screaming at your computer, Ms. Roth, what to do with will, and I forgot it. Okay, and this kind is the circumstantial use, and that's the kind that we want now. In fact, in tonight's homework, I don't want any attribution. I want only circumstantial. Now, I could have used since, when, I used because, um, and so I have a lot of options here to make it all work. Now I want to show you something clear, and I want to show you something else from the reading for tonight. We covered this. It turns out sometimes you'll know exactly what kind of circumstantial participle to use because one of these key words gets added to the sentence. For example, take a look at number 1. When epeta shows up, which means then, you're supposed to use something temporal. So if it were only attributive, freed, we then sacrifice to the gods. But upon being freed, after being freed, or even after we were freed, going from the phrase that we find over here to a clause after we were freed. Also, if you see the word homos, that's nevertheless, and now it's your participle is concessive. You concede something, and you usually use the word although. So Luthentes, this is being freed. Nevertheless, we did not sacrifice to the gods. Attributive, freed, and now circumstantial, upon being freed. Another phrase, although freed, and then the big one, turning it, which some of you tried last night, turning the phrase into a clause. You're allowed to do that. Another concessive participle with a keyword here is kaiper, which you should translate as an although freed, although we were freed. A couple more, and then we'll then I'll finish the video. Maybe actually do some of the homework with you. If you have words like hate or hoya, these indicate something causal, something that one thing causes the other. So the word that you'd want to use is because. So hate lucentes tois theois ethusan, being freed, we sacrifice, or they sacrifice to the gods. Well, there's a hata or a hoya there, so you would translate it because they were freed. And this one, by the way, as you can tell, is a very wordy one, and I don't want you running all this out. It's ridiculous. But this, using number 4, hata or hoya, suggests that you know this is the cause. So it's an assertive way of explaining the truth. Then we have over here one that you'll see. Well, in fact, we'll do this one in homework. I know Mr. Lemley tried this last night and drove him nuts. When we have hosts, this is also a because, but it's not asserted by the authority of the speaker or the writer. And these little words are thrown in there as they said, not something I experienced, but something someone else said who was there. Finally, all circumstantial participles are negated with oo, except for conditional ones which use may. And I think that's good. Okay, so let's go to the homework. And so, by the way, if we were going to revise the 4 sentences, well, only 3 we can revise. 4, we were locked into a purpose clause. But the first 3, because klepsos, you stole the things of the people, you would not save the land. Number 2, which now pa'o in the middle means cease. Because you ceased on the no, sorry, because we ceased on the island, or we stopped ourselves on the island, let us write books. And number 3, not literally, not obeying these people, you will not at all be saved. Because you did not obey these people, you will not be saved. Okay, let's try 5 together, and then I'll shut up and I'll assign just a couple of these, and then we'll really dig our nails into them on Thursday. Then I'll give you a big sentence on Friday for a quiz, and then the exam. Okay, 5. So the words are relatively easy. Poietes, we know, is a poet. Thuo is to sacrifice. And if we just took the first 3 words, the poet is sacrificing. So let me get my text box out so we can at least have some confidence that we're a little bit in. The poet is sacrificing. Okay, I think I spelled it correctly. And I'm going to move it to the bottom because I want to jump back and forth. Okay, so that's just, it's those 3 words. Now, notice what we have here. We have hos, day, in fact, biblia, books, and grapson. Grapson is a nominative masculine singular present active participle, which is convenient for us because we have a nominative masculine singular noun. So clearly, the participle is telling us about the poet. Now, if it were attributive somehow, if we had thue ho poetes ho rather than hos, get rid of that, the poet writing the books is sacrificing, but we don't have that. What we have is hos. So let's go back a second to our little cheat sheet on 216. When we have hos, we have a because, and then I think Mr. Lemley tried so hard to get this into his translation, and we can do it ourselves. As they said. So let's go ahead and see what we can do with this. The poet is sacrificing, and my tools out. Hos, because as he says, he is writing books to, oh, just he's writing books. Done. Okay, so the poet is sacrificing, hos is because, and then because it's hos, and not Hoya or the other one, just double check so I can get it accurate. Hoya or Hate, right? Yep, Hoya or Hate. As he said, he is writing books. So rather than writing books, which is what a participle would tell you, because we have hosts, we're allowed to make it into a clause. Because, as he said, he is writing books, the poet is sacrificing. So I will give you a few to do tonight, not very many because it's already 1:30 and I might be eating into your day. And these are hard, so probably just 1 or 2. Unless, and there'll be no unless, translate the participles circumstantially. This video should help. Go back to those pages 214 and try your best. And if it takes you more than an hour, stop it on your sheet. Say 1 hour, I'm stopping, and that's very fair. So thank you very much. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, last day of the semester in class. Bye-bye.